Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mind Behind the Brand Talk Show. Today, I'm joined here by Marcus Alston. How you doing today, Marcus?
I'm doing excellent, Frank. How you been?
I've been pretty good. So I want to get right into, who you are as a person, your journey getting from where you were to here now, how you started your program, Austin for Athletes. So kind of take us through the motivation behind you starting your program.
Yeah, definitely. So my program is really rooted in my personal lived experience dealing with mental illness. In September of 2019, I was graduating school, just wrapping up school. Got into my first relationship at that time. It was very toxic. Brought out a lot of things that I had been dealing with for a little while, and a lot of athletes struggle transitioning out of sport, and I was one of those individuals. On top of that, going through a breakup and kind of getting acclimated into the corporate world. When I was working my first job, so all like those stressors at once kind of led to a psychotic episode for me personally, and just through a lot of those struggles, and through that really tough experience, I really realized what my purpose was in life. And it was really clear to me that I'm here to help people like myself and really advocate and be a voice, because I knew that I had a unique perspective, especially being biracial. So I wanted to get my story out there. So, I wanted to, find a program or an organization, essentially. And I decided Alston for Athletes because I wanted to have a family foundation where, the Alston families really remembered for help the work that we've done for student athletes and their mental health.
No, 100%, and thank you for sharing that little piece of information about yourself. So kind of moving forward, I want to talk about, I know you faced a lot of injuries as an actual football player, and I kind of want to talk about how maybe that impacts your self-esteem and confidence. As a football player chasing a Division I scholarship or Division II or Division III, and you have these high aspirations of going far in football, but then you face all these injuries. So talk about how self-esteem and confidence plays a role when you deal with injuries.
Yeah, definitely. So I suffered my first injury my senior year of high school, trying to compete for scholarships. So that was a pretty big year, for me. I ended up suffering a list frank fracture in my foot, which was, at the time a pretty significant injury. And prior to that, I really never had any, injuries or health problems. But with football, it's like it's like those things where it's only a matter of time, until you get injured, and that happened to me my senior year, and it really damaged my confidence and self-esteem tremendously because, like I said, I'm out here trying to compete for scholarships. I know I'm the best tight end in the state, and then you suffer a significant injury, and then you're kind of like a no one, you know what I mean, and you have to. You're not playing anymore. You're not around the team as much. You're just really like rehabbing and things like that. So it was really tough. And then, you come back in the process. And when you are like fully healthy and ready to play, you're like, am I actually ready, and healthy? And you're having like these battles with yourself and things like that. So, getting back out there, coming back from, many injuries, it was really tough because I had to regain, my confidence, essentially, and, trust that, I did my rehab process, well, and that, I am fully healed.
Yeah. I play football as well, so I know how it can become a factor. So I kind of want to ask you about another injury, maybe not for you so much, but it's persistent with a lot of athletes, especially football. CTE. So talk about maybe what you know about CTE, and what exactly that is, if you know anything, and then kind of give us the rundown if you have anything.
Yeah, one thing I do know is CTE is definitely, a real thing. It's seen across many sports. I believe recently if I'm not mistaken, there was a soccer player that recently passed, and he had CTE as well. So, um, I just think that with football, that's just unfortunately just kind of some of the risks that's associated with the game. You got people that are boxers in the MMA as well. Where they're taking hits to their head into their body, constantly. And I know CTE is something that's still in the early stages in terms of like the research and things like that. But I know that there are like helmet companies trying to, make better products to help better protect some of these athletes as well. So, CTE, I think, unfortunately, it's something that is very prevalent. We don't know that much about it. Unfortunately, the only way we can know a lot about it is after a person has obviously passed. I just hope that, and you kind of see like within football, especially like with a lot of the rules changing and they're trying to protect players a little bit. So hopefully with like the combination of the rules maybe changing in combination with better mental health resources within the NFL, in the combination of the helmet technology, hopefully, I still think it's going to be an issue, but hopefully we can like help kind of, I guess, like maintain that issue with those three potential solutions.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, they're playing football, but a lot of kids try to play football because they feel like they're only way out of whatever environment that they're in, or whatever situation that they're in. So for the kid that feels that way, talk about what would you advise him or maybe push for the kid that feels like football is the only way to make it out of whatever situation that they're in.
Yeah, man, I would just say that you're definitely more than an athlete. You play football, but you're also a student. You also a podcast host. You know what I mean? So you're like wearing many different hats. And like growing up for me personally, it was just like always football, 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 and like outside of football, really my main outlet was video games. And you just have to find like other outlets and other hobbies, because like people just real, even if you're a 7-year-old kid, you got to realize you're not gonna. The chance of you playing football till you're 40 is very slim. Only people like Tom Brady can do stuff like that. But you just got to realize that your playing career is going to come to an end. Let's say you start at 7, playing football at 7. It's probably going to end right around 22, so you might get 15 years, playing football. But like in those, in that 15 years of experience, you're going to meet so many different people and establish so many relationships and connections that it could really help set you up further in life outside of, football. So if I were to like kind of put myself in, like a younger athlete's shoes, I would just say, just get into other things outside of football, even if it's like a book club or like a club at your high school, or just, get involved in something, because you just have to know that your football, career could end, and that could be, through injuries, and things like that. So it's always good to have, a backup plan.
No, I 100% agree with you on that, definitely. And for, a lot of kids look up to football is kind of, or sports in general is kind of an escape for a lot of kids. It's not school, it's not home life, it's a place outside of it where they feel like they have an outlet to express themselves in a different type of way. So I say that to say that coaches play a big role in, the development of not only the athlete, but a person as well. So talk about what coaches and coaching staffs can do to kind of help kids that struggle with mental health issues.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a big believer in mental health first aid training. So I'm really trying to advocate for coaches, athletic directors, and trainers to really get trained in this space because it's a requirement for them to go through CPR training, but there's no requirement for them to go through formal mental health training. So if you're relying on these coaches and trainers, on CPR training, a life or death situation, a mental health crisis could potentially be a life or death situation as well. So my theory is like, why aren't they certified or go through any sort of mental health first aid training? So I think that could be, a great resource and tool for these coaches, moving forward.
Yeah, since working with the program for athletes, what has been the biggest difference maybe across all sports that you know? What's one similarity that you know across all the sports that you know that you work with?
Yeah, one difference I would say is just like some sports maybe are prioritizing mental health more than other sports. So like, for example, football, you got the tough guy, mentality where, if you have a coach that's in his 40s or 50s, he probably has that old school mindset and old school mentality. So whereas opposed to baseball, where it's very performance, every sport, you have to perform, but I believe there's such a mental side of baseball, from like the mental performance side of things, where, I've seen that like baseball players, for example, are, seeing performance, specialists, as well. So I would say that's the main difference is just like, now reaching to organizations, like some organizations, prioritize it, and then some organizations don't prioritize it, unfortunately. But I would say the overarching theme within, the athletes that I have worked with is just, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, is just depression and anxiety being probably the two common themes that we've seen, especially anxiety being heightened during the pandemic. They've reported 2/3 of student athletes, high school student athletes, were suffering from depression and anxiety when we canceled sports because of COVID.
Wow. Wow, that's an interesting fact. I didn't know that personally myself, so thank you for sharing that. But another thing that's been popular lately, I've seen a lot from here, is esports, which is people may not consider that necessarily, as far as the physical nature of sports, but esports is in its own as far as sports. So talk about maybe how esports may play a role.
Yeah, so like I had mentioned, previously, I've been outside of football. I've been a big gamer myself. I've been in esports for a little over 10 years now, and I know that it's an extremely underserved population. So right now, currently, we're really focusing more on traditional athletes. But given my background in esports as well, I do hope to kind of get into that space as well, where maybe we do a scholarship for a student athlete that's going to college for esports and they're struggling with their mental health. So I would love to kind of implement some sort of esports mental health scholarship in the future. Definitely.
No, that's really cool. I just wanted to ask you about that because I know you talked about video games earlier. So I just kind of wanted to see what you would say about that. But yeah, I love that answer. And the last question that I asked every guest is, what is the dream accomplishment that will solidify everything that you're doing? So if one thing can happen where you're like, okay, I've done my mission in this space, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say, I would hope my family foundation is kind of the go-to for student athletes struggling with mental health and need financial support. If that's kind of my goal, and I kind of look at it as like, just to kind of keep myself motivated and hungry. I kind of like have like this vision of seeing myself on like a Mount Rushmore for like mental health, young mental health advocates. So like, that kind of kind of helps push me to try to be the best version of myself, even though there's amazing advocates out there like Victoria Garrick. So that kind of seeing people like her kind of, like I said, keeps me motivated and keeps me hungry to keep going and keep pushing forward. But I would love if we were like really remembered for, providing scholarships to student athletes struggling with mental health.
No, I love that. I love that. Thank you for joining us today. Before I let you go, there's two things I want to do first. So the theme on the show is that we donate money to the guest's organization, Foundation of Choice, which in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be Austin for Athletes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. But I kind of want you to let people know where they can find you, or maybe where they can find your organization. So I'll let you get in your soapbox and kind of speak about that.
Yes. So primarily active on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can find me at MT Alston, ALSTON. And then for Alston for Athletes, we're also pretty proactive on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. You can find us at Alston, ALSTON for FOR Athletes.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, thank you again for joining my Mind's Brain. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have a great rest of your week.